Someone is describing you right now, not to your face, in a conversation you're not part of, and everything they're saying is wrong. Not slightly wrong, not a matter of perspective, wrong. They say you were cruel, you were honest. They say you were controlling, you were trying to help. They say you meant something, you didn't mean that at all. And the terrifying part, they're not confused, they are certain. Carl Jung spent decades studying people like this, and neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky confirmed what Jung suspected. The human brain under psychological threat does something almost undetectable. It doesn't lie, it rewrites, and then it acts on the rewrite with total conviction. Here's what I need you to understand before anything else. The most dangerous person in your life is not the aggressive one, not the one who raises their voice, not the one who threatens. It's the one who never doubts themselves. Jung called this the most dangerous psychological sign, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. If you value grounded psychological insight over comfortable reassurance, consider subscribing. You're not imagining it. There is a pattern, and it's more common than you think. It starts small. That's the thing no one warns you about. It doesn't arrive with violence. It arrives as a misunderstanding. You say something, they hear something else. You clarify. They say, no, that's not what you meant. And there's a beat, half a second where you think, wait, did I say that wrong? You replay it, you re-explain, slower, clearer, and they look at you not with confusion, but with patience, the kind of patience that says, I already know what I know. Most people make the first mistake here. They think, this is a communication problem. Find the right words and we'll get there. So you keep talking. You produce more evidence, more context, more honesty. It doesn't help. It never helps. Here's why. Jung called it the shadow, not poetically, clinically. The shadow is the part of yourself you refuse to see, the anger you've told yourself you don't have, the envy you've reframed as concern, the control you've dressed up as care. We don't delete these things, we exile them. And then, because the psyche doesn't allow a vacuum, we find them somewhere else. We find them in you. This is projection, and it is not a choice. It is completely unconscious. The person doing it genuinely cannot see what they're doing. They are reporting what they see, which is their own interior, reflected back through your face.
That's why the conversation never lands. You're trying to correct a story that was never about you. But Jung identified 5 specific warning signs that separate ordinary misunderstanding from something far more dangerous. And the first one is hiding in plain sight. Sign 1. Absolute certainty with no room for doubt. Not stubbornness, certainty. No flicker of maybe I'm wrong. The emotional intensity doesn't match what's actually happening. The reaction is bigger than the moment. Sign 2. Immunity to evidence. New information doesn't update their view, it deepens it. Your defense becomes proof of guilt. Your calmness becomes proof of manipulation. The logic is sealed from the inside. Sign 3. Emotional intensity that arrives before the facts. Sapolsky's research on the stress response system shows this clearly. When the brain perceives psychological threat, it activates the same fear circuitry as physical danger. The emotion fires first, reason arrives late, and in some people, it never arrives at all. Sign 4. Repetition compulsion. They return to the same wound, the same accusation, the same story, over and over, not because they want to hurt you, but because they cannot metabolize it. The unprocessed thing keeps surfacing, wearing different clothes each time. Sign 5. The story never changes, no matter what you do. You try being warmer, the story stays. You try being distant, the story stays. You try explaining, you try silence. The story is not about your behavior. It was built before you walked into the room. This is not miscommunication. This is a defense mechanism running on its own logic. But projection alone is not the real danger. The real danger is what happens when it starts to spread.
Here's the progression. Watch it carefully because it moves fast. It starts with subtle misinterpretations, small distortions, easy to dismiss. Then conviction hardens. The narrative solidifies. Every new interaction is filtered through it. Every word you say is processed by a system that has already decided who you are. Then comes emotional amplification. The story becomes urgent, necessary, righteous. And then, the part that changes everything, other people get recruited. Leon Festinger studied this in the 1950s. His research on cognitive dissonance revealed something disturbing. When a belief cannot survive contact with evidence, it doesn't die, it seeks community. You don't abandon the belief, you find people who share it. You build a social reality around it, because if enough people believe it, it must be true. Festinger called this belief perseverance under social pressure. Jung called it something older, the projection field expanding into the collective. What it feels like from the inside is a different thing entirely.
Because here's what I need to be precise about. This is not manipulation, not consciously. The person at the center of this is not calculating. They are protecting an image of themselves, an image of being good, reasonable, morally clean, by externalizing everything that threatens it. And Sapolsky's neuroscience tells us why this is so convincing to others. The brain of someone in a state of absolute conviction produces language differently, more fluent, more consistent, more emotionally coherent. They sound like someone telling the truth, because to every part of their nervous system, they are. Then comes the layer that makes this almost impossible to fight: ego inflation. Sometimes it's moral superiority. They are simply better than you, more ethical, more evolved. Sometimes it's spiritual superiority. They have access to truths you're too defended to accept. Sometimes it's intellectual superiority. They see patterns you can't because you're too close, too invested, too compromised.
What all of these have in common? No self-doubt. Self-doubt is what keeps us honest. It's the crack in the wall that lets light in. When someone has fully sealed themselves from it, when every doubt gets projected outward before it can be felt inward, you are no longer dealing with a difficult person. You are dealing with a closed system, and the closed system is expanding. Unconscious shadow, absolute conviction, recruited community, no self-doubt. The damage escalates not because of intention, but because of certainty. And here's the part you won't like. You are capable of this too.
Slow down with me here. Think of someone you describe easily, someone you have a clear picture of. They're manipulative or weak or arrogant or dishonest. You're pretty sure, you have evidence, you've watched them, you know. Now stay with this question, not defensively, but honestly. Are any of those traits familiar? Not comfortable, familiar. Because Jung found, and modern psychology keeps confirming, that we are most certain about the qualities we have most successfully hidden from ourselves. The person who cannot stop talking about other people's dishonesty, the one who lectures constantly on others' arrogance, the one who sees manipulation everywhere they look. They are not wrong about the world has those things. But the intensity, the certainty, the way it occupies them, that is the shadow speaking. And there's something deeper than simple projection. Jung called it archetypal possession, what happens when you over-identify with a persona so completely that the mask becomes the face.
When you become the rational one, calm, clear, above the noise, you stop being able to see your own irrationality. It becomes invisible because it contradicts the role. When you become the victim, righteous, wronged, patient under fire, you stop seeing the ways you participate in conflict because that would make the story complicated. The savior, the truth teller, the healer, these are not bad things to be. They become dangerous when you stop questioning whether you still are. And this is where repetition compulsion quietly destroys relationships.
You are drawn again and again to the same dynamic, the same conflict, the same wound wearing a different face. Not because you're weak, because the unintegrated shadow creates a gravitational pull. It keeps pulling you back to the unfinished thing until you look at it directly. Until you say, "This is mine." This is the climax of what Jung was describing. The most dangerous person is not the angry one. It is the one who feels righteous, the one who never doubts, the one who believes completely, physically, at a cellular level that they are the morally clean one in the room, because that person will cause extraordinary damage and experience it as justice. Awareness is the fracture in the illusion. The moment you can ask, "Wait, is this mine?" the projection loses its grip. But awareness alone doesn't protect you. Boundaries do.
Cold now, practical. First, trust internal dissonance. When someone's version of you feels completely alien, not unflattering, not uncomfortable, but alien, write it down, date it. That feeling of being described by a stranger is diagnostic data. Second, stop trying to convince them. This goes against every instinct you have, but listen carefully. Evidence strengthens conviction in someone operating from projection. Your defense becomes proof of guilt. Your calmness becomes proof of manipulation. Your explanation becomes proof of sophistication. There is no version of you that wins this argument. Stop playing it. Third, limit emotional exposure. Quietly, not dramatically, not with announcement. Reduce the surface area they have access to. What they don't see, they cannot distort. You are not being cold, you are being strategic. Fourth, document when the stakes are high. Not for revenge, for reality. When you're inside a distortion field long enough, your own memory becomes unreliable. Sapolsky's research confirms this. Chronic social stress degrades the hippocampus, the memory center. External records protect you from drift. Write things down.
Fifth, seek neutral perspective. Someone with no investment in either narrative. Not to validate you, to calibrate you. Because you are not immune to distortion either. This is not weakness. This is the methodology Jung recommended for his own patients, an outside witness to reality. Sixth, withdraw when escalation begins. When the conversation moves from difficult to circular, leave it. Not with drama, not forever. Just stop feeding it. Sometimes the only winning move is not to play. And then there's the thing nobody says out loud at the end of these conversations. Sometimes you accept it. You accept that you cannot correct what they see. You accept that their narrative, however distorted, is load-bearing for them. Removing it would collapse something they are not yet able to face. Accepting your own shadow is terrifying. Looking at the parts of yourself you've successfully hidden, the envy, the contempt, the fear wearing the mask of confidence. Accepting theirs is a different kind of hard. Because it means releasing the conversation that was never going to happen, the understanding that was never coming, the apology that isn't on its way.
The real danger is not darkness, it's unconscious darkness with conviction. The person who knows they're doing harm can stop, can be reached, can change. The person who is absolutely certain they are the morally clean one in the room, that person will walk through walls, and they will feel good about every step. Stay alert. The unconscious never lies. It just borrows your face to speak.
If you recognize that pattern in someone else or in yourself, that recognition is the beginning Jung was talking about, not the end, the beginning. Subscribe if you want to keep going.